All right. Hi, how are you,
Hi.
Mairin-taj?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good, good, good. So welcome to our first live life study podcast.
Yay!
It's exciting. So Mairin-taj just says this is everybody's late Halloween treat.
There you go.
Hopefully it is a treat. Hopefully I don't screw it up and draw badly. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. And if this goes well, maybe we'll do more of them and maybe even like take questions in the future.
Yeah.
It might be trickier managing the camera, drawing, and taking questions, but I think we can do it. I think it might be fun.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So, Life Studied is brought to you by. That sounds very strange. All right, it's brought to you by the folks at the Pennsylvania College of Art and Design. Specifically the illustration department, which I teach for. I teach anatomy. Mairin-taj and I have been doing anatomy classes here for 100 years. And they are super gracious in allowing us to use the space and pay the expense of the show, and it's very, very appreciated. So if you're out there and you're interested in an art school, check out PCAD. Look at their website. The illustration department, I think, is very strong, but so is their design and fine art departments. They are now, I don't know if I told you, they're top 20 in the design department
Oh, really?
in the country. Yeah. So,
Wow.
so yeah, check them out. And also, the nice folks at, I'm sorry, hold this right. Blackwing Pencil. So they send me cool pencils and I get to use them to draw. So thank you. So anyway, today we're gonna draw. So the idea of the show is that for now, Mairin-taj is a professional artist and model. So she'll be posing while I'm drawing. In the future we may switch off, not that I'm gonna model, but that hopefully we can get to see her drawing some too, because she's pretty amazing. Very amazing. A little too amazing for my taste, honestly.
Well, sometimes we also start the show with a little sort of conversation where we'll both be
Right.
in the picture playing.
That's the plan. So Mairin-taj is here. I'm going to turn towards you just so everybody sees Mairin-taj is actually here. And I'm here behind the camera and drawing, and we're safe to hear still. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and just show the drawing pad while I draw.
Yeah.
And I was thinking we would talk, and we've talked about this in the past, but we're going to talk a little about what do you do when you don't want to draw, right? We've talked quite a bit about drawing practices, what to do in terms of managing yourself in the studio, sort of the physical aspects of it, the rules behind it. We have talked about just general practice, how to get better, but we have to be realistic in that sometimes we just don't feel like drawing, and how do we deal with that? And you said a thing when we talked about this last that I found surprising. You said you are very quickly sort of just done with your work. Like you draw it and you're immediately sort of just, you don't want to look at it again, which I find insane. If you get a chance, check out Mairin-taj's work on Instagram and stuff. She's really amazing. So the idea that like, you just have to get past it as fast as possible seems nuts. But
It's true. I mean, it does vary. Let's be realistic. It varies depending on the project or the work, the piece, you know, and my experience on it. So sometimes I'm like, oh, that's pretty nice, you know. But or on the other end of the spectrum, I'll be working on it, seeing the end in sight, and I'll just be like, man, I'll be ready to move on, you know. And
right.
So that happens with everything I do, but at varying degrees of severity.
So when you don't want to draw, I guess I should start drawing actually.
Yeah, I gotta get my phone if I'm gonna time us.
Yeah. So the way these work is that Mairin-taj will get into a pose. You generally time them in life drawing. So we'll probably do like 2-minute poses, which are, you know, generally you start with very quick warm-ups. 2 minutes is a good warm-up, but some psychopaths will do 30-second warm-ups, which forces you to not be fussy about the drawing, and maybe that's part of our discussion, like forcing yourself to do some of this stuff. So,
But we're gonna be easy on Mike today and do 2 minutes.
Yes. Okay. So, you don't want to draw, and this is gonna be a little awkward because I went back to you, so I'm trying to.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, you're turning around a bit. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to risk having you in the camera during a live show, so I thought I'd try to play it safe. All right, so you don't feel like drawing, and what do?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a practice, you have a you're dedicated to wanting to get better at life drawing, but you're gonna have days when you just are not into it. Do you have any ways to work around that? Do you do anything? Do you sort of just give in to not wanting to draw? Like,
It's tricky because for me, I have to gauge if I'm at that point where I need a significant break.
right.
And like to not look at the work and to not be immersed in it or anything related to it. Or if I'm at a point where it's just, I need to kind of reinvigorate myself and look at, I think I said last time, like looking at work that reminds me of why I love to do it.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a big part for me is not, and this is the trick, you have to do, if you're looking at work to motivate yourself, can you do so in a way that you're not falling into that pit of despair, comparing your work or where you're at with what you see.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Because that can actually backfire and make you not want to work.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Because another artist told me once, like, we're sort of, it may sound cliche, but we're sort of vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're constantly emptying out, you run dry pretty quickly. And
Right.
so, but you're right. I mean, how do you not look at other work, trying to bring in new sustenance so that you can keep going and not start to just go, well, what's the point? This guy's so much better. This woman's so much better. Whatever. I mean, I had a painting professor who used to talk about, it was Ong and, oh man, I forget the other painter, but he was like, this guy always makes me want to paint, this guy always makes me want to quit.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
So it is a tricky thing to deal with.
It is. I think for me, part of it is I have to really time how long I'm looking at other work.
Right.
And I'm not strict about it, but maybe if it helps you to have a timer set. Like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm not going to look at Instagram for more than 5 minutes.
That is interesting.
Or
Like
whatever.
literally, so you'll set a time. Is it just with sort of online forums, or is it like in a museum setting? Would you also sort of limit your exposure to stuff?
It's weird. I think when I'm looking at work online, because online is such a venue for seeing more process
Yeah.
of what artists are doing, like peek inside the studio, look at this sketchbook in the making, or what have you. I don't know why, but for me, looking at that in-process work is it can be very dangerous for me because and then I fall into that pit of feeling really bad about my own stuff.
Oh,
But
wow.
if I'm looking at stuff in life, like at a museum,
Yeah.
I almost always find that not only inspirational, but kind of like, oh, I got this.
Yeah. I can, especially with you, because I think you're very, not that I should make assumptions, but you're like very not digital, right? Like you like hiking,
Yeah.
you're always in nature.
I'm very old school.
Yeah, and so I that makes sense to me. I think the idea of being in the space with the work,
Yeah,
as opposed to this fake curated online version that we always get,
right.
that makes sense. I think also, when you see the actual work, it's so much less intimidating.
Exactly. There's something you can see into it a little bit more honestly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's more reassuring for me. But that's something that's very different for everyone.
Yeah, no, I feel like that about like the Wyeths for some reason.
Yeah.
If I see reproductions of any of the Wyeth paintings, regardless of which painter it is,
Yeah.
I'm always a little like, how the F are they doing this? And then you see it in person, especially Andrew Wyeth, like his stuff was very realistic.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you see it in person and you see all the hot spots, all the shiny spots where you're like, dude, that's all bad practice. That's all like you use way too much oil You know, and it takes, when you see the mistakes, it takes some of the sheen off, and then you can enjoy the work and sort of soak it in.
It's very true, yeah. So I guess part of it is just measuring how to take a break from the work and when is the right time and when is, you know, when you need to push yourself and just get yourself into it. So that's the other kind of half of the equation I think we haven't talked about. All right, how do you get yourself going?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think in the past for me, the idea of a timed break is so smart, because my instinct was always to just muscle through it, right? Like my solution for like burnout and not wanting to draw is to draw more, which is probably not super healthy. And I don't know that it makes the work better. Although, you know, I think there is something to be said for the practicing of a craft even when you're not at your best.
Yeah, it's definitely strengthening.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a neuro, I don't think he was a surgeon, he might have just been a neuro doctor, and he was saying about, you know, doing hard things. You know, if you start a hard thing and you quit, it's like you're laying down grooves that never quite, they sort of come to an end. You never quite finish out the path. And by finishing a hard thing, you finish that track, and it doesn't, like, there's a payoff at the end versus just that was a thing that I got frustrated with and quit.
Yeah, right. I mean, don't you just get a dopamine release? Like, oh, I accomplished that. It's a reward.
Yeah.
And then you're more likely to repeat doing things that are difficult.
Yeah, I think so, and there's some growth there, you know. I think probably the magic is somewhere in the middle between what you're saying with taking timed, like thoughtful breaks, not just quitting, but like kind of a timed. I need to get away from everything for a little bit and go jump in a lake somewhere.
Yeah.
Which
I have literally done.
Yeah. This is true. Yeah. Matter of fact, on your Patreon, you shared some like mermaid inspired reference. Of you in a lake, like literally. So go to her Patreon, check it out. But yeah, there's that, and then there's I need to muscle through this thing, and it's a tricky thing to manage, knowing which is the right route.
Yeah, I think when we talked about this before, I was stressing that I've often prioritized my mental health and my breaks more than muscling through, and that's kind of been a bit of a detriment to my career because I'm not like pushing it as much as I could.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a personal choice we all have to realize as well, you know.
But when we say, I'm glad you differentiate career and work, because the work is not suffering. The work's incredible. You just think that by not muscling through, you don't have some big breakthrough or something with like galleries or something, or?
Well, part of it is, you know, if you're not muscling through and working kind of profusely, you're going to naturally have less work.
Gotcha.
You know, and also, so there's less work to share, and there's less kind of new stuff constantly being pumped out, and then you appear, at least in the external world, less prolific, and you know, there's all these consequences.
Yeah, which sucks, because like, the work is incredible, just why do we need the constant new, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, we're not making widgets, right? Like, why do you need a new movie or new show? Why do you need new art in the way that you need a new movie or a new show kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I don't know how to check the chat, so if you're out there and posting in the chat, you have to bear with me. I'm sorry, I'm not real sure how to check that while also drawing and not messing up the stream. So.
Are you gonna save the stream for?
Yeah, this will be archived, so whoever didn't get to see it live, once the thing processes, they'll be able to check it out after the fact.
Nice. Do you want to do more 2s or 5s?
If whatever you're comfortable with.
What's the time? 11:35. Do you want to go to 5?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
You feeling good? Everything's fine?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. So if you take a break, you have one of these timed kind of thoughtful breaks. How long do you think you need? Like, is there just if I take an afternoon and go, hike or something physical, I'm good, or do you need a couple days? Like, what's your time frame for something like that?
It's something I'm still ironing out with my practice, because it's always very dependent on whatever I'm doing and also my mental state.
Right.
So, and for me, kind of neurospicy, as they say. It's almost like a constant guessing game. Like, what's my brain able to do today?
Right.
If I am trying to come to the work and it's recurrently an issue for me, then I go move my body.
That's so smart,
and
honestly.
And that will take, that'll be like a half an hour walk or something.
Yeah.
Or some, yoga or whatever.
Yeah, we should mention that, like, you're an avid yoga practitioner.
Ex-dancer.
Ex-dancer, so you're sort of, and it seems like for you, it's all interlinked, right? The modeling, the making of art, the yoga, the like hiking, and like the stuff you share online seems to be like it's all the same to you.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to demonstrate more, at least online, more the behind the scenes than the work itself, because I think artists nowadays really need to connect with how their practice off the paper, as it were,
That's
is
a
so
beautiful way
part
to put
of
it.
the work itself. And because I'm a figurative artist, I work primarily with the human figure and then with nature, with landscapes. And I love that subject matter so much. Working with my own figure, my own body, and my own well-being is kind of, like you say, those two things are linked.
Yeah.
So I guess I share a lot about, keeping healthy and checking in with your own body and your mind and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like an art lifestyle thing
Exactly.
for you, which I think is amazing, because I think I've spent too long separate, like I have, I probably registered too many websites for stupid projects that I never get to. And one of them was, draw as life, this whole idea of like, for me to draw is sort of to live.
Yeah.
And as much as I like that idea, and I think I lived that way for a long time, seeing some of the stuff you share makes me realize, like, maybe I've done too much of the draw stuff and not enough of the live stuff, like to like really have helped the work,
It's a very nuanced balance that's so unique to everybody. But for me, I can only share my personal experience. But it's I mean, for me, I think art, the practice of making work, is very very much a love-hate relationship. So I'm not one of those artists who's like obsessed and can never get enough and constantly working. And, I respect those artists, like, more power to them, but I can't do that. I have to have downtime and like look at other stuff, and not just looking at other work, but I have to like go out and look at the world and go laugh and have some wine.
I think that's that's the missing piece to this, right? Because I have sort of an imaginary person in my head for who watches the show, and it's sort of it's not the kids we normally work with necessarily, right? It's not the kids who have like jumped into art school with both feet and are and are going through all the like nightmare stuff that comes along with studying art in this current climate. It's more the people who are like have always enjoyed drawing but didn't give themselves, no, that's not the right way to say it, didn't see an opportunity to sort of find a practice for themselves.
Okay, right.
For whatever reason, right? Like you had kids, or you whatever, had health issues, it doesn't matter. And one of the things I sort of want to be careful of is because I've done this kind of hardcore for a very long time, and I don't want to be up here going, you gotta draw every day, rain or shine. I don't care if you're sore. I don't care if you gotta play hurt and all this sort of goofy shit that I've done to myself.
Well, you're passing on your wisdom for what works and what doesn't work.
Well, I'm trying to pass on your wisdom too, because I don't know if I have any, so I'm gonna steal yours.
I'll try to share some nuggets and not just the love-hate vibes.
Try to move this up a little bit. Sorry for maybe if I lower this. Yeah, that works. Okay. You gonna hang for 5 minutes?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Crazy
give it a
person.
go.
All right.
Putting all my weight on my toes.
Yeah. So Mairin-taj is, like we mentioned, the whole past ballerina practice and being pretty athletic, and so she is known to do some poses that I worry for her. She's like stretching like a bow or like this right now. I mean, so, you gonna be able to talk while doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course you can.
I'm getting some good lateral extension. So it feels nice.
You have to do the other side then. For the other.
Yeah, I have to balance it out. Right.
Okay.
So what about you? What are some of the techniques you use for working when you don't want to work?
That's the problem. I think I like my advice. I worry is not good advice. That's the thing, right? Because I've always, I tend to be like the only professor in the building using like sports analogies all the time, because I played sports as a kid, and you get it sort of pushed into you that you play hurt, and if you want to compete, you got to be going hard all the time, and I'm not so sure that's a good. I mean, it's tricky for me because I think to be a competitive illustrator, there's a lot of luck. There's a lot of literally just things fall into place, and after the fact, you sort of pretend like you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
But I think there's also just, like you said, there's a constant, like, just make new stuff nonstop and hope that people see it. And I did a lot of that. I did a lot of just drawing obsessively. And I think, honestly, working, not to sort of toot your horn too much, but I think working with you has sort of made me realize, like, this person's doing incredible work, and then, going and, like, playing in the rain. And I'm like, what the hell? So maybe there's another way. I tend to, I've had to produce for companies when I don't necessarily want to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, like, one of the things I would do is literally use egg timers, and or an app that works as an egg timer, and I would make my like when you mentioned being a little neurodivergent and you're having trouble focusing, and one of the ways to sort of push through that is to time everything, time your drawing and then time your breaks, which you said you use that term, but in a kind of a better way, where when I was timing my breaks, it was more like I would have an app that would have me drawing for 45 minutes, 5-minute break, and then you do 10 cycles of that, and then you can get a 15-minute break.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
and then,
intense.
yeah, and it's like not fun, and very productive, and I've met a lot of deadlines for other people, and I think just through the sheer practice, I probably got better.
Yeah. As you do. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that, like, I couldn't have made those same gains by chilling out a little bit, I'm going to use another freaking sports analogy, but like there's like you see these weightlifters that are like, they overdo it and they overtrain.
Yeah.
And then you see the guys that just work out, intensely, but for shorter bursts of time, and they're just as athletic and fit and strong.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, why do I spend all these hours in the gym?
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of, I heard an artist describe themselves, they're a painter, they describe themselves as a burst painter.
Oh God, I love that.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what I am.
Shit. Damn it, that's so great.
It's like, yes. And that really like
I gotta write that down.
something
first.
in my brain just went ka-chink, and I was like,
Yeah.
that works, that makes sense. That's how I got to practice. Like I started, this happened several years ago, and that's when I started to stop beating myself up about not being like those artists who drew all night when they weren't tired.
Yes.
It's like, I can't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. Burst painter.
Burst painter, and I apply that to everything I do. Like I'm gonna burst gestures to draw today.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? Like really short
Wow.
little studies, or like a short hit workout. Like
Yeah.
that's what I like.
God, that Jesus Christ. I feel like it's somebody just hit me in the head with something.
Right?
Well, like yesterday, we're putting together a new Kickstarter, right? And I brought down a stack of sketchbooks that are all filled. I mean, it's like that big.
Yeah.
I should gesture here. I don't know, that big.
Yeah.
And my son's like, holy shit, are those all filled? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like a stack, there's probably 4 other stacks that big.
Wow.
And
Ooh.
I'm like, what? Like I can measure my life in all these sketchbooks. That's a little bit of a bummer. And I don't know.
That's pretty badass though too. Hardcore, as they say.
Yeah, but maybe hardcore's not always the way, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I advocate for that for sure. Like maybe burst hardcore.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's so. You said the HIIT training, right? Like that's high intensity, and then you chill the hell out.
Yeah, and you rest.
Yeah.
Like you really
Yeah.
rest.
What time is it, by the way? Because we have class after this.
It is 11:47, so we got like a little more.
Oh, we got plenty of time. Okay. Are you feeling good? You okay to keep
I am
going?
good. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna start it. I'll give you like a basic kind of.
Yeah, maybe I'll flip the page over here.
Okay.
These are not great drawings, by the way, but.
I don't know. The one of me leading looks pretty cool from what I can see.
Well, thank you. I am. I'm for a 5-minute drawing. I'm getting like 2 minutes of drawing. It feels like.
Well, you are talking.
Yeah.
And you turned to face me a bit, so that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Which is for you guys out there is technically bad practice. You want to set it up so that your sketchbooks here, models just in the distance, so that you can see both
Yeah.
and make comparisons. Turning around is not ideal, but it's maybe not a bad idea for like visual memory. Oops.
That's true. That's its own sort of little practice as well.
Yeah. Which I do a lot of.
I remembered something else that I think we were thinking about on the topic of like how to mix it up enough to get re-engaged.
Right.
And for me, part of that is just changing a little tiny factor.
Yes, that's right. You mentioned this.
Like-
Elaborate, please.
Like okay, I've been doing. If I just change the paper I'm working on,
Right.
like just a slight shift in the tooth. That changes the way that
That's enough.
the graphite receives it. That changes how I work. That makes me go, oh, okay, like it's a little less familiar. So now I'm more engaged in what I'm doing.
Right, which kind of goes back to you talking about you being more of a physical worker, right? You're drawing and then you're going to go take your hike, but if you can bring some of that to the studio, and I want to emphasize this because I think I think if you're not in the studio every day, you maybe think you see these portrayals of artists as like everything is cerebral and they're thinking their way through everything and everything is measured and it may be that that's partly true, but it's still a physical practice, right?
Yeah.
And so your body might respond to just a slight change and you go, oh shit, this is cool. What's going on here?
Yeah, I think the tactile nature of making art is maybe not talked about enough, especially in art schools.
Yes.
Where it's all about like looking and studying
Oh,
and
God, yes.
intellectualizing. I'm a total intellectual, don't get me wrong.
No, of course.
You know?
Yeah. You're in here with a book half the
Yeah.
time, and I'm like blabbering to the kids.
If we're talking, Harry Potter land, I'm a Ravenclaw. But I really think there's a lot to be said for, changing how things feel, checking how you feel,
Right.
marrying those two.
You have said to students in the past, like, I'm giving them rules on, this head many heads long, and that's this muscle group, and that's this bone, and they'll start measuring things, and you'll see their work just take a downgrade, right? Like, because they're thinking about it, and sort of all the emphasis on the drawing that you're doing above the eyes, and none in sort of the heart and hands kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that old cliche of, you know, draw what you see, not what you think you see.
Yes.
There's so much, I mean, the brain works this way. We have like preconceptions of what any given thing is.
Yes.
And so when you bring those to your drawing, you tend to draw from your, you know, I was going to say you tend to draw from your imagination, which is a great practice, but in this sense, I mean, like you're drawing from what you've decided you're seeing instead of interpreting honestly what you're actually seeing.
That is perfect, exactly right. Yeah, I had a professor who used to call them generic drawings.
Yes.
Because you think you know the brand and you just make it up in your head kind of thing. Yeah, and it happened in class, like I was talking about the anatomy of the arm.
Yeah.
And I have a bad habit of turning to you when I'm done my lecture going, okay, did I screw anything up? And you've reminded everybody like, oh, by the way, you know, the arm is this like asymmetrical thing and there's a rhythm to it, and don't forget that part of it. And I'm giving them all the reasons why the arm is asymmetrical and failed to mention that part of it. So it is a piece that is often missed, and if that gets you to get back to the subject, if that keeps you drawing, if it's just like, forget it looking like anything, maybe you just like, just, if moving the pencil on a new kind of paper just gets you going, then maybe that's enough for today.
Yeah, exactly. And the timer. Should we do some climbing?
Is this thing moving? I feel like every time I look at it, I've lost some part of the drawing here. Oh, you know what? I might be able to fit this on the last page.
Get ready for some foreshortening.
Oh no, I'm not ready. All right, wait. Let me fix this thing. All right. Is that on the? Let me lower this a little bit. Okay, ready. Not ready, but ready.
You got this.
Okay.
You're demonstrating to everyone what we're talking about today.
Because I really don't want to draw.
Yeah, I mean, in my practice lately, I've been dealing with that, which is like last week when we started talking about this subject.
Yeah.
I think I said, you know, one foot in front of the other, you know, like I'm living that experience my own self. So
Right.
I understand
So are you when you're in that mode, are you not drawing whatsoever, or are you doing a little bit here and there, like the burst thing you mentioned, or like, what are you doing?
I'm going to be a broken record and say it depends, but lately there's other stuff going on in my personal life, so I'm just kind of, if things are really not melding, I don't fight it. I don't muscle it. I'm just like, all right, this is going to be a pretty bare minimum week or month or whatever it is.
Right.
Day, you know. So I've been just kind of committing to the sketchbook work and my newsletter and calling it quits.
Yeah, I mean, you write quite a bit too, so
yeah.
I didn't even think to mention that as part of your process, like, because your Sketchbook Saturday thing and the newsletter that goes out, you know, every time I see one of those, I'm like, man, this person is thinking way more about drawing than I am.
No.
Although maybe technically I'm drawing more than you are most weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that I have thought it through as much as I should, which, you know, I desperately need to do, I think. So, yeah.
Do you think that would help you in your experience of when you don't want to work? Is that why you want to?
Yeah, because you always feel like you're playing deep. Oh God, I'm doing more sports shit. I'm so sorry. I'm not even a big sports guy. But anyway, I'm playing more defense, right? And that never feels good when you're just constantly defending versus like doing something proactive.
Right.
And yeah, I think I need a break. I think that's sort of magic of being, because you're in this sort of mix of, you think of yourself as an illustrator, but you kind of have a fine art sensibility, right? Like you
For
just
sure.
make art when it comes to you.
Yep. Well, I'm practicing more as a what they call, I suppose, a fine artist these days. I was trained as an illustrator, so
Right.
I kind of go. It's like a tightrope that I walk.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm inspired by everybody. So,
But that's like I think we're getting to a point where that's almost part of the business now, right? As the traditional illustration clients sort of dry up or completely go away.
yeah.
There's a lot of illustrators just making things, and in the way that like when I was in school, we would have just said, well, that's fine art. Like you're just making a thing, and waiting to see if there's an audience for it. Versus what illustrators do, which is wait for the audience to come, you know, preferably with a paycheck,
Yeah.
and say, draw this thing.
Right.
Which I think, you know, there's a kind of magic to that. I think that's a cool. It's just a cool world to be in. Although it can be scary if you're, you know, living off of gig work.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
We're gonna do the hands today, by the way, anatomy. I had screwed up on the syllabus, and I had us doing. So we did arms. I was gonna have us then switch to legs, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. I should just finish the hands. So.
I assumed it would be hands.
Yeah, so did I, until I looked at the syllabus, and I've rewrote it this year as, you know, directed by the department, and I goofed up the sort of schedule.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm drawing your hand, that's what made me think of it.
Okay. My tiny hands. Another thing I enjoy to kind of reinvigorate myself with the practice is to change, you know, if not the paper, the size of the drawings. you
Right.
know,
The medium, like what you're drawing with?
No, like
No, I'm sorry, that was a question, like do you
Oh.
ever do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Okay.
actually don't do that very often, and I probably could find some excitement if I did that more often. I don't know why I don't think to do that very
Yeah,
often.
because you predominantly work in pencil, and specifically like carpenter pencils that allow for big painterly gestures, correct?
Yeah, it's a mix usually of like they do the carpenter style and some other ones that are more fine. But most of my work these days is in sketchbooks, so I have like a particular way I like to do that. But if I need to mix it up, I will go into Conte,
Right.
which I don't share much of that online.
Why is that? Now you said you don't share a lot of work in general.
Yeah, I don't. I get over my work fast, and I don't think to share everything. Partly because I'm like, I gotta keep it back because if I have a dry spell, that's when I'll use it.
Oh no, really?
You know? Yeah.
Oh, but so there's like anxiety attached to
There's
this.
totally. I mean, I got all the things in my head.
Oh,
all
no.
the problems. Anxiety is one of them. Yeah.
So
Or I'll just do the classic like, oh, no one wants to see this. I'm not gonna share it.
that is terrible.
You know, I do
because
that.
I'm sure that's not true. But I can understand the anxiety thing. I think we all probably have that, and everybody's response is probably different. Mine is go back to overdoing it. Like the reason I fill all these sketchbooks is like, oh my God, what if I have a dry spell? I better have tons and tons of shit in the stash to make up for that. So I don't hold anything back. I mean, I hold stuff back just because like I can't post it all.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so.
Right.
Anyway, what times do we want to keep going, or?
It is 11:59.
So let's do maybe one more and then call it a day.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. All right.
Well, another factor is just, like I just don't want to be online posting all the time.
God, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. This is true. Like there's this pressure to do that as an artist, and it just sucks.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I can get really into it, but then I'm not in the space that I need to be in to want to draw. You know, like it seems to be one or the other.
Yeah, yeah, and also there's this sort of pressure. I think you sort of hinted at it earlier. There's this pressure to be putting everything online, right? There's this pressure to like, you don't exist if your Instagram isn't posting, if you're not updating your Instagram 2-3 times a day, kind of thing.
Right.
So, and that's a drag, because then you're not thinking about the work, which I'm already spending so much of my life, like just kind of executing work and not like stopping to think it through. So, the last couple weeks have been weird for me. I've been online less, partly because, so I am officially like sort of off Batman and starting this thing where I'm gonna do some creator-owned illustrated comic projects.
Nice.
And I'm spending all this time like writing and hating every bit of it, because it's like writing is it's not fun. But I'm not posting on as much as I would normally, and I'm not online as much, and I'm finding myself like not missing it at all.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's the rebel in me is like always leaning, with social media specifically, I mean, I'm always leaning towards do the thing that they don't want you to do. Like, okay, if you have to post all the time, then I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I kind of want to be maybe the less successful, but the example of I'm not going to live that way.
That is, yeah,
that's
that's.
even if it's a detriment to me, and everyone's like, oh, I've never heard of you before. It's like, okay.
I mean, but it's kind of inspirational, to be frank.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want you. I would love for you to be, rich and famous and everything if that's something you wanted. So I don't want it to seem like I'm saying, hey, don't.
No,
but,
I got you.
After feeling like I was dragged onto social media, right? Like other friends that were like, dude, you have to be there because that's where all your fans are and the clients, and I just always felt like this is not for me.
Yeah.
But I have to be there, right? Like you have to be where your competition is and where your readers are, and all this goofy shit that we tell ourselves, and it's both true but also really toxic.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I'm, and this is a little off topic, but I'm always more drawn to what is more true. What is the truth that isn't toxic?
Yes.
To use your words. So for me, if that means I'm showing up in the contemporary environment in a way that's like not the way I'm supposed to, I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do what hasn't been done.
Yeah.
I'm still figuring it out. I feel like things are going to shift for me and how I present myself online in the next year. But and there's that apprehension. What if this is social or career suicide? But
yeah, I mean, I hope that's not the case, but I also feel like there's a part of it that's like, you could start an art cult of people who are just like, yeah, we're gonna maybe draw, but we're also just gonna go camp out and jump in lakes and just like, and I feel like, I don't know, man. It feels like this is gonna seem like a weird comparison, but it's gonna feel like an extension of that, like those wine and paint things that you see in places, and they're always like, artists kind of poo-poo them because they're like, they're not serious, this is goofy, they just want an excuse to get drunk. But I'm like, life's short.
Yeah.
Every museum we go to is full of artists that none of us have ever heard of, that are amazing.
Right.
If people are like drawing and painting and loving their lives, I don't know, maybe that's a win.
I think
you know
that
what
is.
I mean?
I think that is a win. I don't think we should measure our lives by the curation of the internet.
Yes.
And I think that that's kind of killing our lives.
Oh God, yeah.
And our work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like, and maybe we'll wrap up the show with that. I think the idea that if you don't want to draw, that's probably just fine, as long as you're not quitting, but instead sort of doing a targeted break, right?
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to still live.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
All right. Well, that was a good show.
I think so. I hope so.
I'm not sure the drawings are good, but the show was good. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for putting up with our experiment, our little weird live drawing thing. I know the production's not exactly high end, but
it's homey, right?
Yeah.
It's cozy, guys.
Yeah, it's homemade, and we enjoyed it, right? So
yeah.
anyway,
Hopefully it's not a trick and
No.
more of a treat.
Yes. So thank you for watching. This eventually, so if you're a patron of either Mairin-taj or I, you'll get this a week to 10 days early. If you're seeing this on YouTube after the fact, check out our Patreons. I'll put the links in the show notes below. Mairin-taj, you want to tell us about any of your sites you want people to go to?
For now, until I disappear, you may find me on Instagram at studio_mair, M-A-I-R.
All right, and I'm Mike Hawthorne. I'll have all the links below. Thank you for watching, and talk to you later. Bye.